swamp, quagmire, whatever you call it, it does not look like the draining has begun. And joining me now for more is Ohio State Senator Nina Turner and Ira Stoll, editor of thefutureofcapitalism.com and a conservative commentator. Ira, what is going on?
Well, it turns out it's not so easy to drain the swamp. I mean, these guys aren't yet even in office, and they can't figure out whether they want to drain it or spray DDT on it or participate in it. You know, the quickest way to end corruption in Washington would be to give Washington less power. Then it becomes less important to suck up to all these politicians. If federal government spent less money, there'd be less people trying to buy congressmen and get influence with these cabinet departments. So we'll see if Trump is able to succeed in that. And if not, there's going to be a whole bunch of people in Michigan and Wisconsin who voted for him who are going to be quite disappointed.
Nina, what do you think of Ira's point there that you have to change the policies that give Washington power to reduce some of the money flowing in?
Well, let me add Ohio to his list. This really comes down to political will. Now, President-elect Trump ran on the whole notion of draining the swamp, yet, as you highlighted in an earlier segment, his cabinet is worth about $4.5 billion with a B. The fact that they are selling off, and I put that in air quotes, opportunities to either talk to the president-elect or people in his cabinet just reinforces more of the same. And that is what the American people is they're tired of that. Politicians run saying one thing, of which President-elect Trump said that he wasn't your ordinary politician, and then when it comes down to it, they do something entirely different. And there is going to be hell to pay, I believe, if President-elect Trump does not follow through on his promises to the working poor and middle class in this country. And it should. People sick of it. They over it.
Ira, take a listen to Kellyanne Conway on some of this.
There's a difference in Hillary Clinton's relationship with Wall Street, where she's getting tens of millions of dollars in speeches, tens of millions of dollars of contributions for her foundation, even while she's sitting at the State Department, and Donald Trump tapping some of the greatest talents that we've seen on Wall Street to go and serve in his cabinet.
Ira, you write about capitalism. What she's saying there isn't exactly right. He explicitly ran saying that the bankers and the lobbyists and the donors had too much power. He said Goldman Sachs controlled Ted Cruz, and there are more Goldman appointments than any administration in the last 30 years.
I think you're right. I think he probably pressed that a little too hard during the campaign. I mean, Hillary Clinton was doing the same thing. She was writing op-eds promising to rein in Wall Street just years after taking hundreds of thousands of dollars in speaking fees. But, you know, hypocrisy is Trump is not the first politician to be hypocritical, and he won't be the last.
Is that the best defense, Ira? Is that the best defense conservatives have for a man who hasn't even taken office yet?
Well, look, I'm not here to defend Donald Trump. I will say that, you know, the fact that somebody worked at Goldman Sachs is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, Bob Rubin, widely respected Bill Clinton Treasury Secretary, John Corzine, who was senator from New Jersey. You know, as you pointed out earlier, Hank Paulson, who was George W. Bush's Treasury Secretary. You know, the fact that someone used to be a banker might mean they know something about economics.
No, you make you certainly make a fair point. Professional diversity and an expertise in a field should not automatically be held against someone. But again, it was Donald Trump who held that argument. It was him who said the Goldman thing was a problem. So now he's being held to what you might call, I don't know, the Donald Trump standard. And it is wider than just Goldman, of course, Nina. You've got Rex Tillerson, who spent his adult life and career at Exxon. The Senate wants to vet him and look at who he is and who he owes and what he has.
That's right.
Makes sense.
Right.
I want to read to you and then get your response what a Senate Democratic aide is saying about this, because they're trying to hold back his tax returns. Quote, Mr. Tillerson's asking the Senate to put him in the driver's seat on U.S. foreign policy. We need to see documents that'll ensure he's working on behalf of the country and not his own bottom line, Nina.
There it is, accountability and transparency. And that's what President-elect Trump ran on. And that is what the American people deserve. You know, Ari, one time Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm once said that when it comes down to morality and profit, morality rarely wins. Profit usually wins. And that is what is happening. That is the picture that is being painted. And it is patently unfair to run as this trailblazer, as somebody that's going to shake it up, drain the swamp. Meanwhile, it seems like the president-elect is adding to the swamp right now. And people must hold him and every other politician, because Ira is right. I mean, politicians say this stuff. It is not an excuse. It should not be an excuse. And the only ones who can hold all politicians accountable for what they say compared to what they do, it is the American voter. And we need to start strongly holding people accountable on both sides of the aisle.
And Ira, I'll give you the last word. What do you think is the most important actual economic policy you want to see out of this new administration? And then second, if you have time, what do you think of the acronym DTS? Will it catch on the way Drain the Swamp has?
Well, I'd like to see a corporate tax cut. Right now, these high corporate taxes are keeping money outside of America. If we cut the rate, we'll bring it back. The companies will spend the money. I would not like to see this 5% tariff that's being leaked about. I mean, that would really harm American exporters. It would harm American consumers. And DTS, Drain the Swamp, you know, I think the last thing we need in Washington is more acronyms. I think what we need is smaller government, and that's the best way to end the corruption.
I totally hear you. I mean, you have so many acronyms. They call it alphabet soup in Washington. It's overboard. But Nina, I want to wish you and MC a Merry Christmas and an HH to you, Ira. Happy Hanukkah to you both.
Right back at you.
And I want to give everyone a quick programming note as well. Tonight, Rachel Maddow sitting down one-on-one with Kellyanne Conway to discuss the Trump transition and her newly announced role today in the Trump White House. That's 9 Eastern on MSNBC tonight. Also, coming up, we're going to look back at the lessons learned from what has been for many a long year. We're going to give you a rundown of some of our most memorable moments in politics, culture, and reasons for hope as you get ready for the holidays.